We're live. Hey, it's Brook. Printrbot.com. Printrbot.don't know. Because last week I was without Dave, and we sorely missed you, Dave. I had to do this by myself, and it started with me not being able to log into my Facebook because my daughter was using Facebook and it had saved the password. Anyway, I couldn't even find the link to tweet out where the Facebook Live thing is. You're going to have to show me. I think Dave likes being indispensable. But welcome back, Dave. You had a vacation and some days off. It was good?
Yep. I got to talk to the customers every day.
Oh.
Still checking tickets.
Dave is like that. Even when he's off, he doesn't allow himself to be totally off. Not because I require it, because that's the kind of guy he is. Now, you may not know this, but Dave is an excellent bass player. And he got to play a couple of gigs. How many gigs?
I had 5.
5 gigs? Is that a record?
For a week, it might be, yeah.
You got to look up Dave on the internet and see if you can find him playing the bass. Dave Hayes. All right, anyway, welcome to Printrbot Live. It's a weird week because it was July 4th, and I hope you had a great July 4th. I actually did step away from work for a few days, spent some time with the family and kids. It was awesome. It's like the one time in the year I eat hot dogs, and I ate them twice. But anyway, so we had a good time, but since we had some days off, a couple of my guys have taken some vacation time. So we are lean this week and scrambling a little bit to get all the orders out. We had a good sale. And there was, I was surprised. I had thought that more people would go for the Printrbelt. So we sold a few, not tons. And I'm going to talk about that in just a second. But we sold a bunch of smalls, so people took advantage of the sale, and I'm very happy that sale happened, and we've got a lot of orders to get out. So I want to start today with just some updates about stuff that's been going on at Printrbot that you may be interested in, and or it may affect you, maybe not. So why don't we start with the boring one? Not that there's any boring news, but this right here is a replacement that we are going to start using for the ATX. Now, I have always hated the ATX. Here's why we use it. We're a 12-volt system. The printer board that we've used for years, the regular old printer board, is a 12-volt printer board. And even the G2, the printer board G2, that runs the tiny G2 core firmware, that's also a 12-volt board. So I sell printers all over the world, and what is the easiest way to get a lot of amps, because heated beds require a lot of amps? How do we power these things internationally? So early on, 6 or 7 years ago, I decided we'll use computer ATX power supplies. So there's good things about those, and there's bad things about those. The bad thing about those, in my estimation, is they are big and they are bulky. So you've probably seen similar power supplies with other manufacturers. Prusa uses a similar one. You see these all the time. They're fairly cheap. They have plenty of power, and they are smaller. That's what I care about. So we're just prototyping a couple of printed end caps. Maybe we'll go to something that's folded metal. But these are going to replace the ATX power supply. So we're going to draw down on the ATX power supplies, sell out what we have, stop ordering those, and if you add a heated bed to an old printer, this is the one that we'll recommend. It's just smaller. And it's almost, if you've got an Xbox, the power supplies are almost this big. So this doesn't bother me near as much. Now, it's still something else you got to add on, but believe me, the wiring is better. We'd do the wiring ourselves. And, the wiring on an ATX is like this big, huge bundle of cables. And we even did a nice case for the ATX that some of you may have. I don't think we have any in here. But anyway, so look for that. And this is the one that is going to come with this printer. And here's the news about this printer. So this is the simple, now I know that it's missing the faceplate, and I'll get to that in a second. This is the Simple Pro. It is the printer that was the hardest to build because it involves software, cloud, new electronics, new firmware, a touch screen, all kinds of difficult things. And it ended up being the one that my wife and kids could use without any help. So we sent this one off with the touchscreen to Make Magazine for the shootout this weekend, and we'll see what they say. Now, the caveat with the cloud is this, and living with the cloud for a little while has really been a learning experience, and here's why. Some people just don't want to be tied to the cloud. So early on, we responded with, okay, we changed the firmware for the Printrbot G2 to allow you to hook it directly to USB and your computer, and you can run it. We recommend Cura. I think it's Cura 2.6 or something now. But anyway, so you can run this printer even with the touchscreen from a USB cable. Now the downside is the touchscreen really doesn't help you at that point because you've got a big screen and a computer hooked to it, and that's what controls it. But if you unplug that USB and you want to go back to the cloud, great. Now, so why do we have the cloud? Here's why. The goal of this printer was to make printing easier. You know, I've been known to be honest. I don't mean to call other CEOs dishonest, but I think some 3D printing CEOs are a little more optimistic than I am about a newbie taking, you know, Repetier or Cura and learning about material and temperatures and slicing and all of those strange words, the vernacular that goes around that comes around 3D printing. So I really wanted to remove as much as possible for newbies so that they could get a fast start. And that is what the cloud is about. Right now, it's not about anything else. It is about getting started as a newbie quickly. So when you order a Simple Pro, I just realized the cover isn't on this either. But the Simple Pro, out of the box, using the cloud, you get on Wi-Fi, use our cloud software to choose a model, it moves it to the printer, and you can get started really quickly without learning about temperatures and slicing. In fact, we don't even use the word slicing, to my knowledge, because that's something that you have to explain. So anyway, that has been a good experience for newbies, and I've got feedback from people that have these at schools or given them to a neighbor with kids, and when they get adopted into an environment of people that have never used 3D printing, the adoption, it's pretty easy for them to use, and they're happy with that. But at some point, you want to do some other things. Some people want to do some other things with their Pro. And it may be time, if you've exhausted what the cloud can do, because it's not a powerhouse, it is a very simplistic experience. And you kind of have that trade-off between, I want lots of power. Well, with power, you get complexity. So we have been very disciplined to keep the cloud exactly as it is. And in fact, there were a few features that did not work in the cloud. We had some trouble with a couple of features, and I just wanted to give you full disclosure in what we're doing with the cloud. So when we started with this project, it was the G2. The G2 has, the G2 board has a new way of handling non-motion control commands. And that is not with M codes that, you know, all of us manufacturers have made up over the years. Hey, I'll use this M code, and I created a new M code. And so the G code stack gets really, really flooded, and Marlin is really flooded with all sorts of M codes that are specific to manufacturers. There's G code that no one else uses. There's G code that has been abandoned. There's G code or M codes that have never worked, to my knowledge. So it's just kind of a hit and miss thing. So Core G2, Tiny G guys, said that is a nightmare. We're going to use JSON, which is a programming language, or I will leave it at that. It's programming. It's a way to talk to a electronics board that does not interfere or use M codes. It doesn't interfere with G code. So anyway, all that to say that when we started with the cloud, we didn't have the emulator that we now have in the in the electronics. So now the electronics can act exactly like Marlin. So you can run the Simple Pro with Octoprint, with Repetier, with the other hosts that everybody's used to in this community, and you can use it just like it was Marlin. It makes the computer think it's Marlin. And so that's a really nice feature. But we started with the cloud with a custom build of Cura to slice everything. So the cloud is a little bit slow, and we're going to speed that up by now moving to the off-the-shelf Cura, the latest stable release. That will make it faster, and it'll make it more like Marlin, and it'll have greater use for our other printers, so we can start adding a upgrade option that includes not just Simple Pro, but the other printers that we have for use with the touchscreen. So that's where we're going. But I have had some comments from people that the Simple Pro is cool. They don't want the cloud. They'd prefer it with no ties to the cloud whatsoever, and I can do that. So the first thing we do is remove the touchscreen. So we have to design a little, just a blank cover that's going to go over this. And by the way, one of the guys that recommended this was Thomas from the, I don't know what he calls his YouTube channel, but it's something like Tom's Hardware or something like that. It's a 3D printing channel for 3D printer enthusiasts. And those are usually power users. And he got this and I gave him one kit just so he could see the insides of the kit. He learned that the kit was hard. And I said, the kit isn't really the sweet spot for this printer. In fact, I didn't care about the kit, so we removed the kit. We don't have a kit anymore. But anyway, he had that one. He had one that we assembled. And as he was using it as a power user, he thought, you know what, if this came with the heated bed, that would be better. So we immediately thought, you know what, I agree with that. So now for $9.99, you not only get the Simple Pro and the touchscreen and everything we just mentioned, but you also get the heated bed and the flex plate. Now, it won't look exactly like this. We're getting these nickel plated, and so those are off at the plater. But you'll get the whole shoot and match, even the new PSU that I just showed, for that $1,000 price. So we're taking a little bit of hit on our margin so that we can move a few more units and give you the nicest experience. Now, the cloud does not yet, believe it or not, it doesn't control the heat bed. That is for advanced materials, ABS and stuff like that. And that does have use with the USB. We have instructions on how to get that heat bed enabled in the starting G code for your print and stuff. So it's really the Pro is really becoming something that is familiar. It will work in just the same way with different starting G code as the rest of our printers always have with Cura and whatnot. So now it comes with the heated bed and the flex plate. So that's a nice addition. So that's not going to cost any more money. Now, if you don't want the cloud, we are very soon, we're just testing it. In fact, we were testing it today, and we printed these parts. These are Smalls kit items, and it does perform as expected. So you can run this thing. Just out of interest, I thought I'd show you. The reason I left this off is because this is the ribbon cable that normally goes to the hub. I know I'm getting a little bit technical, but I thought it was kind of interesting. I'll shut up here in a second. So the hub, actually, when you turn on the bot, the hub says, hey, I got power, so let's turn on the printer board. Let's get everything working. So the hub was a necessary piece to take these two pins and send them high. And it says, okay, we're good to go. Everything checks out. Let's go to the cloud. So without the cloud, you have to jump these two pins. So we can post what pins these are. I know it's the 12-volt pin and one of the I/O pins. I forget. We can add a picture if anybody's interested in taking their hub off and seeing how it works without the hub, without the cloud. But anyway, so we're going to sell these without the heat bed, just kind of a bare bones type thing. So it won't come with the heat bed, and it won't come with the screen. We'll have a cover over this. We'll jump everything for you, so you can still use the power board, turn it on and off, and it'll just come on. You'll use it exactly like the old Simple, and that will be $800. Well, $799. So we'll be getting that in the store very soon. So if you've kind of lusted after the better rails, the hardware, the bigger bed size. This is a 6 by 8 by 8. So it's bigger than the old Simple. It's going to be $800. So when you go back and compare that to the price of the old Simple at, what was it, $599? This is all kinds of upgraded stuff. And it's hardware-wise for a couple hundred extra dollars. So this is, that bare bones is pretty similar to the old Simple, but just more build volume, and you can still use it just like Marlin, so everything. So that's what we're doing with this one. So the stock comes with the heat bed and the flex plate, $1,000, $999. And then we'll have one other SKU that will be $799 without the heat bed and without the screen, and it's just kind of a Simple with upgraded hardware. So it has the same form factor and everything. You'll get that new. Oh no, you won't need you won't need this because you don't have a heated bed. So if you do want to upgrade to the heated bed, you always can. But some people don't want the heated bed. So that's why I have this out, and that's what we're doing. All right. Are there any questions yet? Okay. So why is Cura the recommended software? What is the main driver for this? There are other softwares out there that I think are better than Cura, and I'm pretty sure others do too. Curious. Can you go back up to the top? Okay. So why is Cura recommended? A couple of reasons. Number one, I am an opinionated man. There's a soundbite for you. I am very opinionated. And there is several open source hardwares, or softwares, as you said. There's Repetier. I go back far enough that sometimes I even use, what is that old one? Printerface. I used to use that. It's really, really bare bones. There's Octoprint, which I love. Thank you, Gina. That's free, works on a Pi. It's really neat because you can use a browser to operate your printer, even connected to the internet. That one is cool. What am I missing? Repetier I mentioned. Oh, Simplify 3D, which, no offense to the Simplify 3D guys, some people swear by it, power users. I call it Complify 3D because I find it complicated. But yeah, there's a lot of software to choose from. You don't have to use Cura, but I recommend it for this reason. I find Cura really is the best looking. It's the best user experience for somebody that's new to 3D printing. Repetier's a little bit geeky in their interface, and I don't think I'm being cruel there. I'm sure it's intentional. It's powerful, so that trade-off between power and complexity, like Simplify 3D, I prefer to recommend the one that just can look quite simple. And the Cura guys are, they're open source. Even other manufacturers like Lulzbot, they do their own and they rebrand it. And even though Ultimaker is a competitor, they're totally cool with people doing that. So I like Cura. Now you asked what are the drivers. I don't know really how to answer that. When you load Cura on a Mac, I'm a Mac. Again, with the UI, I like easy on the eyes stuff, so I'm not a Windows guy. But with Cura, do you have to load? You don't have to load drivers for the printer board.
He's asking for like drivers like USB driver. I think.
Oh, what is the main drive? Oh, what is the main reason for this? Okay. Yeah, so that's really the reason. And just because I like it doesn't mean you do, and I get that. And so you're welcome to use anything. Like I said, the printer board and the new printer board G2 can use a variety of host software, so knock yourself out. You got anything else right now? Okay. So I'll move on to a couple other things. Update on the Printrbelt. So a lot of interest on the Printrbelt. And it really surprised me. We moved very quickly. We got it to market. So this weekend I was using it. And, we're building these in-house. And so this was only the second. Well, it's not really fair to say the second because we tear down, rebuild, do new parts. But anyway, this is the first one that I've had to play with. And so I was printing with it this weekend. And I realized, full disclosure, I'm just telling you the truth, I realized that the angle that we had, when we fold in-house, metal in-house. We have old equipment, like bought off Craigslist. When we send it out to our local manufacturer for metal, they have really precise computer, it's computer-controlled folding equipment, very, very high-end. So they can be more exact than we can. And a couple of the bends on this top one were just a little bit off. Well, that translated to the wrong angle. I use a 35-degree angle, just like Bill does over at, why am I blanking? Polar 3D. Polar 3D is providing the cloud software for this printer. So I don't have the cloud software yet, so we're in a bit of a holding pattern, just waiting on that to be finished up so that I can use this more easily. Because I am forced right now to use, even though I'm very grateful for Bill's work, he's a Windows guy. I had to get out a Windows computer. I have to use Repetier in Windows. And there's one manual move that you have to do. You have to move your print to 35 degrees. That's the first thing, because of the 35 degrees. The Z is not perpendicular. It's the belt. So you have to do that. And then you actually have to move it over, and it's a kind of a precise thing. You have to move it over. It's just a little bit arduous before the cloud is ready to be printing. So I had some failed prints, and I got mad. And I kind of went, I put it aside. But anyway, now we know what the problem is, and I did discover one other thing. So I don't know if you can see, but I actually have the side. One side was correct. The other side, I had to put a clamp on it. So my poor little demo unit needs some new holes drilled in it, and I can get back to playing with it. But also, one other thing, I wanted to mention why I think the sales were, I'll say, lackluster. And here's why. We've always been a brand that is, value-centric. I mean, we like to sell things for as little as we can and still make the margins that we need to stay alive. I will have to say that some manufacturers gouge. Think about that. That's delicious coffee. They just have high margins, higher than I choose to do here. So when I bring out a printer that is $2,000, some people are like, what? I didn't want it to be that much. Brook sells cheap hardware. So I think there was a little bit of a sticker shock with that. Now, I protected myself a little bit because I did have a little bit higher margin. But as I used it this weekend, I realized a couple of things about this machine that I want to do. So I'm actually going to do a couple of changes on this machine. And here's what I'm going to do. I am going to set a hard limit for what this machine will need to be manufactured for. So the changes I make in this are actually not going to be anything functional. It's going to be a few ways that I discovered that I can bring the manufacturing, how hard it is to manufacture, like I mentioned, doing them in-house. It's very difficult to do those bends. So I've got a plan to switch how this is put together to save us time and complexity on the manufacturing side. So I'm going to do that, and it's going to drop the price. And so the good news is that we are going to, Dave, we should probably, you're hearing this for the first time right now, I think. But I met with my CFO, and we both agree we can do a little bit better. So we're going to offer the Printrbelt at $14.99. The reason is we think there's a little bit of a sticker shock. We're going to see if this alleviates a little bit of it. But I can do a little bit better on how this is manufactured, and I can save everybody money. So what happens to the people that ordered it? Well, you're going to get a refund for the amount of money that you need to get back based on the fact that you bought it during a sale. So the people that bought during the sale will get a little bit of refund, and it'll be as if it was on sale for $14.99. And they had 15% off because of the sale. So it's a little bit complicated for us. But I'm out of the starting gate, and I look and I see an opportunity to save people cash, so I'm going to do it. So a little bit of a mixed message on price, but it's good news for you guys. So we're going to bring that down. Now, the other reason I think people didn't just jump in droves on this Printrbelt is not just price. It's new. It's so new you don't even know what the heck it is. How does it work? People are asking how it works. So we need more people in the community to get their hands on this. And there are still going to be those that $1,500 is too much money. So I completely sympathize with you. What kept me out of 3D printing at the very, very beginning was I didn't have the money to buy a MakerBot. So I had to save up for a long time, months. And finally, when it went on sale, I was able to get it. So I totally get it. That you don't have $1,500 and you want to play with the Printrbelt. So here's what I'm going to do. The bed on this is really the magic, and there's no big secret about how it works. So I'm just going to show you real quick the pieces that are involved, and I'm going to tell you how to build your own. All right, so let me unplug this so I don't hurt anything. By the way, that was one of the prints that I did this weekend, and you can see it's slanted on the end, so yeah, my angle was off. But a kind of a fascinating thing, this is a piece of extrusion, and if you were to print this flat on your bed, there would be absolutely no way that this would ever work. But because the lines, the XY moves like this, it was able to do these overhangs. It's actually an undercut. There's a little bit of smudge there on the ends, but it recovered and printed here until it had this horrible failure here because of my angle problem. But anyway, so it is printing. I'll need to post some video of this printing. So here's the deal. So what I'm using is printed parts right now until we get these CNC. We're going to do machine parts for the caps on these rollers. Listen to how taut that is. So you do have to have this tensioning system, and I'll post the files. I'm going to take this whole bed out and on the drawing, and I'm going to show the parts here that you need if you want to build your own. So right now I'm using a 5 to 1, I think it's 5 to 1. Might be 3 to, no, it's 5 to 1. This is a easily sourced geared stepper, NEMA 17. So you can buy your own or whatever, and you can even change the gearing if you want more. But I've found that 1 to 5 is fine, or 5 to 1. So the motor spins 5 times, and this will actually spin once. But anyway, so that gives a little bit of torque. But the interface is 608 bearings, easily sourced. These printed parts, easily printed. Aluminum, just off the shelf, aluminum tube. And it's mounted to these rails on the side. But I think I can do a shorter version that will be a little bit cheaper to build. Now, we did this long because in our printer, we wanted 6-inch rise for the 6x6 window, so we needed to make it long. But I think just for people building their own, I'll probably do about half size, about this big. Now, I want it to be big enough to have a heated bed. You probably can't see it, but right under here, right here, is a Printrbot heated bed 6x6. Now, that's a pretty common size for available heat beds. We use a 12-volt heat bed. But that has an aluminum top. But you don't have to have an aluminum top if you don't want to. So I don't want to manufacture anything for a kit, to be honest. I just want to share on how I built this and how you might want to design this. So I might even go as far as to make the legs of this in like a 3D printed part and just publish the files. But I don't want to get distracted from doing a great job with this, nice finished assembled model. I don't want to support, to be honest, a kit. I don't want to give you frustration when you're trying to put this kit on a simple, or some want to put it on a play, or some want to put it on a Prusa. I don't care what you put it on. You put it on whatever you want, but that's your problem. But I'll at least help you get started with this printed bed. The belt itself is available off McMaster Car. It is stainless steel shim material. I forget the thickness. I'll post all the details. We cover it in Kapton. And right now, believe it or not, the seam we cut with a paper cutter. and we loosen the tension. We put the butt ends together, and we slap down a piece of Kapton. Now, we have Kapton for sale, so you just buy a couple of sheets of Kapton and cut them down to size on a paper cutter or a razor blade. And that's how you kind of glue those, get that belt together. And then you tension it, and you're good to go. So anyway, I'm going to try to do a little community. It's for the community. It's just to show how to build one of these that is really, really, really cheap. And maybe some of you guys will opt to just build your own and slap it on your existing printer. So I'll even go as far as to build along with you. Again, publishing printed parts, not supporting, helping you get it running on your Printrbot or whatever. But that's what I'm going to do. So price was one. I've dropped the price. Second one is it's new and not a lot of information out there, so let's see what we can do to seed the community with some belts and printer belts. Don't have to call it Printrbelt. But anyway, so we're going to try to show you what it's like, and I can do some videos on how that might work on this. One interesting thing is, can they see this over here? Okay, so if you were to mount that belt on here, one crazy thing is, you'd have to lock the Z into place. Your Z lead screw becomes completely useless because you don't go up and down. The Z is replaced with the belt. It'd have to be at an angle, and the whole belt would have to move side to side, which is kind of weird to think about. But the whole belt will have to move side to side, so we could have it going off that direction or off down the front. And I'll show you how to mod your printer to see if the belt is something that has any use for you, and it'll cost you very little to do that. So kits with something like this are not going to happen because there's enough complexity in this build, and you really have to get the angle right. And like I said, you'd have to lock the Z, put the belt moving around. That adds mass. You're not going to be able to print real fast, but at least you can experiment with making your own little desktop factory. So that's what is going to help us, hopefully, seed the community with more belts without spending a lot of money. So that's why that's up here. So I do have a question. Any future projects in SLA? SLA is the resin printers. And the short answer is no. Why? I read a book, 0 to 1. Pretty good book. It's for guys that run companies as a tech thing. But basically the message of 0 to 1 is don't do a new product unless it's 10 times better than everything else out there. Now, I don't know if I can really say that. I've had a differentiating factor with Printrbot, with price, and the quality of build here in the USA. They're very strong machines. They last a long time. They're durable. So the differentiating factor between me and the competition is pretty much price, built in the USA, friendly folks, small company, good support, and they're built like tanks. Whether or not that's 10 times better than some cheap Chinese plastic thing that is going to break in a couple of weeks, that's up to you to decide. But we're already in business, and we've been able to sustain business. But when I look at a new product category like SLA, I look at Formlabs. Now, Max is a friend of mine. He's the founder, CEO of Formlabs. And I look at their Formlabs. I forget what number they're on, 2, 3, whatever it is. And I have a Kickstarter edition of the Formlabs printer. And it is expensive, for one. But there's a reason it is. It's a very nice piece of hardware, and they do a fantastic job. I think they're the leaders. And I've told Max I love the machine. I don't use it that much for one reason. I'm not that intrigued with doing really, really, really detailed, small items that you can't, like bolt to your skateboard and use as a functional part. FDM, using melted plastic, PLA, ABS, nylon, all of those can be really, really functional items. Now, Formlabs does have more resins. I haven't really kept up with all the resins. I hear there's some really good stuff now, but the people that look to SLA to buy are really professionals like jewelry makers. They can do lost PLA casting process for like little itty bitty jewelry. So it's like an art thing. Dentists, they actually have, I believe, a dentist to like take the 3D scan of the mouth and print out, a replica of the teeth for whatever they're doing. So that's dentist. So it's just a whole different. My business is to enthusiasts and hopefully early adopters, and it's a different price range. It's very, very safe what we do. SLA is messy. There's a stain on this rug from my Formlabs. I was running out of the room to clean, because you do this SLA process, and yeah, it's beautiful. It is slow. It's beautiful. The parts can be, I don't want to say fragile, but brittle. And so anyway, one of the things I hate is you can't touch the resin with your hands. You have to like rush it. Either I had my wash stuff set up out there. You have to like douse it in alcohol, then you have to like rinse it with water, and you're wearing gloves, and it smells, and then you got to set it in the sun for like an hour. It's just like too much. But I was running out of the room, and I tripped, and I dumped the resin on my carpet, and guess what? You can never get that out, ever. You have to replace the carpet. So I guess I'll have to replace the carpet if we ever move. But anyway, it's just nasty. It's not for kids. I like printers that kids can use, so that's why I'm just not that interested. I can't do it as well as Formlabs because they've got a big head start. And it's just a whole different market. I probably said too much about that. Here's another question. For the Printrbelt, have you considered a much smaller Z-axis? Many printed parts need very little height. Yes. In fact, that one I talked about that I'm going to help the community build their own, that's going to have a much smaller build height. It won't necessarily be for long prints, although who knows what you'll be able to do. It will be for smaller parts, one right after the other, so a little factory of parts going. Or just to investigate what it's like to print with one of those, and you don't even have to do a whole bunch of parts. It just may be you're curious and you want to build a printer. Again, it's a small club still, people with printer belts, or at least 3D printing on an angled belt for the Z. So yeah, it'll be a smaller one, and we'll get some real-time, we'll get intimate with what it's like to have this versus, this long of a belt. The longer the belt, you can keep the part warm for longer. So long prints, you need that to be very long so it stays heated even until it goes off the end, you know what I mean? In fact, I've even toyed around with, instead of just rollers, to extend, long parts. I've thought about a second heated platform that it doesn't stick to, it just slides across as it pushes across there and keeps it warm so it doesn't warp. So anyway, it's that warpage that you're fighting with a shorter belt. Any update on the prosthetic bot? Sure, I'll do another update. Man, I'm talking like crazy. Yeah, that's good, though. I like the questions. Keep them coming. I've got one more thing I want to talk about. Don't want to get too sidetracked. But here's the prosthetic bot. So how's this for a nightmare? I shipped Jeff the two latest printers. It's our latest model. They were gorgeous. We worked very hard to get those out to Jeff. And on the trip, UPS totally totaled the machines. And so they arrived at Jeff's totally beat up, like they were dropped or fell off a rack, totally bent, metal bent, parts a mess, broken acrylic. It just so discouraging. So I have to rebuild them, but it's an opportunity. So we've been talking, me and Jeff, and we finally finalized how the unit will be configured for him to sell. And the one thing I'm really excited about, and Gina will like this from Octoprint, is we are including with that prosthetic bot that Jeff is going to sell, he's my one distributor, because he targets prosthetists. And it's a very, very unique business. He specializes in the tool chain and the training around making these specifically leg prosthetics. So it's just a niche, and he's the authority on that niche. I'm not going to try to sell those machines here. It's built for prosthetics. But we're going to add Octoprint to it. It's going to run from a Raspberry Pi 3 that's mounted on top in this case that we got on Amazon. Nice little screen. You can lay it down, and if you don't want to use it, pop it up if you do. And that Octoprint will have, we're toying around with that Touch UI, but we're using the 7-inch screen from Raspberry Pi. That's the best touchscreen for the Raspberry Pi. We really tried hard, and I have a new software guy that he got it loaded on that Adafruit 3.5-inch, but it was a resistive touchscreen, just very small. Octoprint doesn't really work that well when you know, it's built for a computer, the UI. So when you shrink it down and constrain it to a 3.5-inch screen, it gets not very fun to use. So the 7-inch will be a nice medium. But you know, long term, I'd really like to see the UI. And Gina, I asked her, can we redo the UI? And she said, yeah, we just released this software that allows you to pretty much configure anything you want as far as the UI. So not that I'm trying to brand Octoprint for Printrbot. I just have this very opinionated, again, idea that the UI should be very easy to use and not give you too much information. I don't think we need this graph that runs live on the temperatures of the bed and the hot end and stuff. Who cares? You just want to print. So his customers are labs that don't have a lot of experience. They don't need all those bells and whistles, so we're going to strip out some of those eventually. But for now, we're just going to use Octoprint with that Touch UI that is a plug-in that kind of makes it simpler interface on that touchscreen. So we're going to build the next two prosthetic bots. It'll go with Octoprint, and it'll give me some experience, some more experience with Octoprint. It's really gotten good in recent days, and you may or may not know that this is coming with, the Printrbelt is coming with a Raspberry Pi, and you know, it's an option to run Octoprint on it. Bill also has a special build for the Pi that he has that interfaces with this cloud. It's a little simpler for his developers. But that'll be an option here. So I need to get more time with Octoprint. I even think it has value for our other printers. And I really think that 7-inch screen is what we should be focusing on as a 3D printing community. That screen is nice. It's a little expensive, not bad. It's like 70 bucks. But for what you get, I mean, it's a whole computer. You can use touch on it. You can plug in a keyboard and a mouse, kind of geeky. But it's really, really nice. And it brings Ethernet port. It brings built-in Wi-Fi. It even has Bluetooth. I don't know what you would use with that. I think there is some plugins to use Bluetooth, but I don't use it. So you get a lot with that. And with our Simple Pro, we don't have an Ethernet plug. We don't have a way to plug in a USB to read the files off that USB. And that's another thing that I want to do with Octoprint, get a way to read files off your USB storage device. So it just is a nice, easy way to take this work that Gina's done and the community has contributed to and have people have a nice user experience without forcing the cloud on them. And so that's the deal with the prosthetic bot. I will tell you that he loves the Ubis 13HF, the high flow. He is, I forget the size nozzle he's using, but man, he's having really, really reduced print times because he has a really big nozzle and he runs that thing mostly in spiral print or spiral vase mode. And it is a great bot for that niche audience, so it's going good. That's all I want to say about that. I'm interested in that niche. Can you provide the distributor information? Will there be files for it since it's niche? Will there be files for it? Does he mean?
Maybe like in the same way that we share like our other.
Oh, yeah. Yes. So I'm an open source company. I'm happy to open source that. What I know is it's really expensive to build. This is an expensive printer. It's a huge case. I mean, the thing is like this tall, and this is huge. It's all enclosed. Yes, it is create O and P. If you go to createoandp.com, I believe. Can you check that, Dave? Jeff Aronston? He'd be happy to take your orders. He's going to deal with you, not me. But he is very, very well connected in the prosthetics world. He knows all the people that are trying to utilize 3D printing with prosthetics. He knows Enable and all of the nonprofits. He travels abroad, donates his time. He's very involved with, I always forget the name of that country. Where is Mount Everest? Nepal. He goes to Nepal where they have this hospital. In fact, we're designing a printer for that hospital. This is what he told me. It's hard to believe. He said that hospital has put, it was over 30,000, it might have been 40,000 prosthetic devices, not just legs or hands, but like everything combined, even back braces and stuff like that, orthotics, on 30,000 kids in Nepal in the course of the life of that hospital. So we're calling it in-house the prosthetic Model 3, because it's kind of a third iteration. But this one is going to be even bigger than the prosthetic bot. I am going to offer that as a partial kit. It is huge, but we're doing it with extrusion. So it's huge, but it's kind of ugly. And when I say ugly, it'd be like, like a rep wrap made from extrusion. But it'll have a Printrbot XY, not Core XY, but the XY stages that are Cartesian. It's on top on one plate, and then you have this huge Z stage. But I'm going to release all the files for that too. So if you want a shorter Z stage and really wide and deep, but not very tall, because this one is going to be 24 inches tall. This thing is going to be huge. So that big, you need to be able to flat pack it in some form or fashion, have them assemble it over in Nepal or wherever it ends up abroad. And there are some universities interested in that printer. I've taken emails from people that say, hey, I want to get involved in this, but I'm not exactly the market niche that Jeff would service. Jeff's like, hey, man, this is, we're helping people, so it's pretty cool. So the Model 3 is essentially done, but what we're doing is trying to save a little money on manufacturing. We're working with our extrusion manufacturer to do a kit that you can just order, and they have all these cool machines that do all the CNC for all these pockets and these fancy hardware. I don't know if you know this, but extrusion manufacturers, it's like a loss leader, the extrusion. It's a margin leader. They don't make their money on the extrusion. They make their money on the hardware to connect it. It's ridiculously expensive. But we're going to go ahead and use their stuff. They have all the machines. So it'll be a kit that you can get from them. And if you want to contact them and get a kit of different size, then go for it. This very, very large machine niche is just that. It's a niche. You got to spend $3,000, $2,000 to build one of these. And not everybody has that, but some people have the need to build big, and we're going to release the files for not just the prosthetic bot, but also this Model 3. Again, I'll probably change the name of that. So yeah, we'll share the files. I just need to get around to doing it. Since we're still finalizing details, I don't like to release files until we know, boom, we're manufacturing. This is what we build, and this is what we ship. And until that day, I'm not going to release the files. Meantime, I tweak, and I don't like confusing people. I kind of do like confusing people, actually. At least you would think that by my history. What makes the prosthetic bot different than your other machines? Well, one very big difference. It has a dropping Z. It's enclosed. It is designed to be very, very robust. I mean, it is a big, sturdy machine. It's all boxed in, and when you triangulate by all the sides, that thing is like a beast. So he is printing like 24-hour prints all the time. He's done even longer prints. It's just a bot that you would want for large prints. Again, his niche is thick layers. I think he's doing thick layers. I don't remember, but what layer height that he's using, but when we do prints with the bot that we have here, we do 0.5 layer height because we want to go fast, and we concentrate on spiral prints. You don't have to do that. It would work for other tip sizes, not spiral prints, but it's just really robust. It is a workhorse. And the UBIS HF comes with that hot end from the beginning. It's just designed for that hot end. That hot end is longer. To mount that hot end on, say, an old Simple, you have to modify where the fans point because it's longer. You have to move the sensor because it's longer. That particular bot, we're not even putting the sensor out beside here. We need lots of cooling for that, so it's just designed to have lots of cooling. This is just, it's a manual adjustment bed. It's what he asked for. But we do use the sensor at the back of the machine to find the Z, but you got to manually dial that in. It's what he wanted. So there's just decisions like that that he made. It's really his product that he's selling. So those are different decisions than I would have made, but he knows what he's doing, so he gets what he asked for. So that's the difference. Dropping Z, enclosed, designed for the HF, hot end. It's really to do big structural prints fast. Does Printrbot do sponsorships? Does that mean, do I give things away to people? No. What happened to the Big E? The Big E is sitting out there neglected. It's funny because it was out there as a project, and I was really interested in big prints, and I had this model airplane thing that I was going to do, and it just, with just life, you know, you can probably tell from my style, I'm like ADD. So I get really excited about one thing, and there's a shiny thing over here that I start to work on. So I need to get back to the Big E, but there's implications with the Printrbelt. There's implications with Escher. There's even there's kind of crossover with the prosthetic bot. I have bigger printers now, so the appeal of the Big E wasn't as it doesn't draw me as much as it used to because I have machines that can build much larger things now, and so those are a little easier to print big things on. But I have these projects like the lawnmower that I need to get off my butt and start. And that Big E is not lost, but it is just a project. It's not a product. It's a project. But now that I have the UBIS HF, the perfect hot end for it, I do. In fact, I was just thinking about it this weekend. Should I go work on the Big E and put the HF on? What? I got other things, the priorities that I needed to get done first. All right, we got something else? Do you think you would be able to make a machine that could handle continuous carbon fiber? What makes those machines different? Well, I'm going to make an assumption that you mean continuous carbon fiber filament. Is that fair? So carbon fiber filament is the most punishing filament that you could possibly use in your hot end. It is, because it has carbon fiber in it, it is so abrasive. It's like 10 times more abrasive than regular plastic, which you may not know. Regular plastic is actually quite abrasive. So we nickel plate brass tips. So we have, I don't know if you can see it, but we have like what looks kind of like a chrome, like a stainless steel look to our tips. They're not stainless steel. Stainless steel has very bad, and I'll fight with anybody over this because Carl has talked to me at great length about this topic. I was like, hey, I see people using stainless steel tips. Why don't we should do a stainless steel tip. He was like, we are not doing a stainless steel tip. Why? Because it has horrible thermal characteristics. It does not transfer heat well. Now, it's not an insulator. It just doesn't even compare, stainless steel, doesn't even compare to what brass does to transfer heat quickly. So why would you use Carl's just like, why would I use stainless steel in a tip when brass is far superior? Well, one reason people do that is because there's a perception that if I get a hardened steel tip, which basically means they heat treat it, which is so easy, it is a little bit harder. But let me tell you, carbon fiber is going to ruin your stainless steel nozzle. It's going to ruin your hardened steel nozzle. The only thing that you could print all day long with carbon fiber, and I've even heard reports from like scientific methods of testing that the carbon fiber filament blew out, and when I say blew out, it erodes the tip. It starts out at 0.4, and in 8 hours, it's like really big, so big that your slice is completely useless unless you remeasure that tip. But in 8 hours, it's going to be even bigger and even bigger. So it is so punishing on the tips. There is an outfit somewhere in Europe that made, it's like ruby tips. And ruby does stand up well to carbon fiber. So you could go get one of their tips. It's like $100 for the tip. And you could put that on whatever it fits. I doubt it fits mine. And you could go that route. So I've been talking to Carl about, well, what are options that we have to make a tip that's hardened or harder and could be more resilient for carbon fiber? Well, Carl has this in process, but it ain't done. And so we're investigating some coating, some different techniques, some different materials. But, you know, it's science. It moves slow. You got to not only figure out, it's funny because to even test it, you have to have something made that has never been made. And so when Carl, I don't want to say Carl's a cheapskate. I'd say I'm a cheapskate. But Carl is very frugal. And when he goes to explore a new tip, he might have to pay $400 for 10 tips or 5 tips. And that is enough to choke a horse, you know, when you're talking about, what, 10 of these things, $400? Because they, you know, the economies of scale. When somebody builds something custom one time, it's like a lot of money. When you build 1,000 of them, it's not very much money. So when he went to get the quote on the price for this new procedure on making a tip, he was like, I ain't paying that, and he kind of got mad. So he was trying to find a different source for it. So we don't have that, and I can't even tell you the details because, hilariously enough, Carl doesn't tell me the details sometimes. If it's super secret in his mind, I don't even know about it. But anyway, I love Carl. He came by yesterday, and we talked for hours. Anyway, all right, let's wrap this sucker up. I got one more thing to tell you about, and then we'll pretty much be out.
Are you doing that thing?
Yes. You already have a place to register? Dave is awesome! Yeah, loop that over and over and over. There's your soundbite. Okay, so you remember this? This is the extruder board. And, you know, I've been talking about multi-material, multi-color extruders. And, you know, you probably see this hacked together job. This is really just a demo to show you kind of what I'm thinking about a dual color or material machine. Now, I always say color / material, but keep in mind, when you have one, this is a 2-into-1, and I actually used, funny enough, I have, because of the Magic Candy Factory, this candy printer that we did for this company in Germany, Catches. I have a lot of syringes, and these are lure locks. They had needles. I pulled the needle out. It was like the perfect size for these. It's just a mock-up. Really, this 2-into-1 idea, I just wanted this to show you. This is 2 Teflon. They're like 2-millimeter ID, inner diameter. And I think it ends up being a little more than 3 millimeters OD, outer diameter. But anyway, so the filament travels from this is a Bowden setup. So Bowden means there's no motor here. It's not a direct drive. The motor doesn't push the filament right into the hot end. The motors are back here. And again, this is just a mock-up. I took like off-the-shelf parts and just started hacking crap. In fact, I used pieces from old hot ends just to show you what the setup would look like. So you got 2 materials or 2 colors back here. And you feed this. This is black. So it's going to feed like this. So your spools are down here. You got 2 spools, and they come up into here. And then it pushes, let's say we're printing in black. It's going to push that down past this 2-into-1 like intersection. And it pushes it down and then feeds it in. And so the push on the filament comes from way back here. That does require a higher retraction than we would ever have to do with direct drive. So I don't have a lot of experience with Bowden tubes. But I know that I can build one, and I know that they work. It's just haven't got a lot of experience using them. But some people like them. They say that it reduces the mass on your, arm, or your extruder can weigh less, and everybody gets into like measuring with grams instead of ounces and stuff. They get crazy. But I've always put a direct drive on there, so the weight of the motor's always been there, and I can get good prints, so I don't know why I would do Bowden. Well, here's why I would do Bowden. Because to do a 2-into-1, you have to do Bowden. It's going to do this big retraction, and then it'll push the filament on this side down through, so you have only one hole coming out, so it'll pull the one back, push the other one down. So we have a community member, Mark, who's got an extruder board. I just sent it to him. And I was like, hey, you want to help? This is like a community project. And he said, yeah, that'd be awesome. And so he used a printer board with the old school extruder board. And we actually took these out of the store, but I've got like 50 of these. They've just been sitting on the shelf for years. He got a working 2-in-1 printer with, I believe it's our hot end. He has like a home-built printer, but he's using, this is the key part. He found the right firmware. He's got it dialed with the extruder board. He only uses two of the extruder channels. So there's X, Y, Z, E, so that's extruder, which confusingly enough is T0 for binary 1. I mean, the first thing in binary is 0. So anyway, it's T0, and then this is T1 and T2. So I used to have this Go printer, this huge printer, with up to 3 extruders. So you could run 3 direct drives off this, but it's really confusing to do multicolor material with 3 separate hot ends. This simplifies things because it's coming out one tip, one hot end, so it's a little cheaper, and you don't have to have 2 hot ends. You don't have to have 2 direct drive motors with hot ends. You do have to have 2 motors, but it goes into one. And so the calibration used to be, you have to do offset on X and Y to like get them to match perfectly, and you do a print, and it'd look like that color is like back and to the left. And you have to align all that. It's all in software. It's confusing. You can watch a video of me doing that, or Steve showing us how to do that. It's confusing. I was like, we are not doing this. It's too hard. This is a lot easier. But I have these, and we're going to do a contest. Not a contest. We're going to do a giveaway. It's sort of a contest. No, it's not a contest. That would be illegal, I think. It's not a contest. This is a free giveaway. Now, here's what we're going to do. Dave have you posted that link yet? Don't do it! Let me explain it first. So, when I do giveaways, I'm just going to be up front and say that sometimes people take advantage of this. Mean people. Sometimes people are just looking for free stuff. But here's what I want. This is my hope. That when we post this link, that only the people watching this stream will be the ones that get the first dibs on 10 of these extruder boards. Now I'm going to put together a little kit. You're going to need to have your own printer board. So if you don't have a printer board, you're disqualified. You're out! You don't get one. Now you can buy one, but you won't get one from me. So you need to have a Printrbot and a printer board. And I'm going to send you the necessary electronics, really just this, a ribbon cable. I think we're throwing in a little power cable. And you are going to be somebody that wants to look into dual color material printing. And I'm going to send you this for free. And it's only for the US. So I will not ship to Europe. Not that I love Europe, but not as much as I love the United States. So, and it's cheaper for me to ship to US. So if you're in the US and you want to dig in and get engaged, get involved, be on the bleeding edge of this whole 2-into-1 idea, the community member Mark, I'm going to do a blog post where he shares what he learned, I share what I learned about these printed parts. This will all be replaced with printed parts. You will print your own parts. You will use your existing UBIS hot end. It doesn't matter what style, by the way. You will switch your bot over to Bowden tube, and if you don't have, let's see, so this kit is going to be a little more involved than I realized. I'll find an old motor. It's going to be used. I'll find some of these extruders that will work. They may be older extruders, maybe aluminum V1, alu V1. I have a bunch of those. They're actually built to be reversed, so we can spit one out this way and one this way. These are, I had to cut this one down. But anyway, so I'll send you the hardware that you need to kind of cobble together a Bowden tube 2-into-1 for your Printrbot. And that will be free of charge, free of shipping. But it's only going to go to people that, I'm begging you people, you need to be somebody that's comfortable doing G-code. You need to be able to troubleshoot. I'm not going to support you if you say, I can't get this to work. Well, great. I just sent it to somebody that doesn't know what they're doing. I want somebody that's got a lot of experience. I need 10 people to step up and say, oh, that is something that I can do, and I am well suited. Maybe you can design, because these parts were just kind of generic and they're used. In fact, Mark fed back that, yeah, we need to, there's some jams that are happening in that 2-into-1. That surely can be improved. I even had Brian Rowe, used to be my engineer. He's on the TV show with me that we did for Science Channel. He said, man, I really want to do multicolor prints, so I want to help design that 2-into-1 thing, teach people how to splice their Teflon correctly and get this. It's a geeky thing, people, not easy. So enough disclaimers. We're going to post the link. The first 10 people, honest, talented, experienced people, you don't even have to make your case. The first 10 people to jump and to say, hey, here's what is in the form? Address, name, email? Email.
Shipping information.
Okay, you're going to fill out your name, you're going to fill out your email, you're going to fill out your shipping information, and I'm going to get these shipped out early next week. This little kit to go where no man has gone before. I haven't even done this yet. So Mark was great. Traumley? I forget his last name. Sorry, Mark. But we're going to have a conversation about that, do a blog post, tell you what parts we're using so you can align yourself with what we're doing. You will have the same parts. You'll have a Printrbot. You'll have the same files. You'll have the same G-code that we're using. We'll figure out how to get that thing to work good, and then the community will benefit. They'll have a multi-color Printrbot option. Okay? Now, you can do a 3-into-1 too, but I got this set up for 2. So you'll have the ability to do 3-into-1 if you want to do that. Now, it's a little bit of envy that I've done that drives me here. Prussia went out and showed a 4-color, and I got to tell you, the prints are gorgeous. He's had a lot of trouble getting that to market. I don't want to say anything bad about a competitor that might make hot ends that they seem to have problems with, but we've got Ubis, so we'll be good. So I think we can do every bit as good as Prussia's done, or at least ride on his back to the bank. I'm just kidding. Anyway, I love Joseph. But anyway, so I want to start playing with this. It has implications for even the Printrbelt. Can you imagine multicolor and multi-parts coming off that? So basically, even if you have a rep wrap or anything, this could work for you. So I'm excited about it. And go! Post that link. It's done. It's happening right now as we speak. So that's it. That's why this crazy mod thing was here. We'll have more on that next week. I'll have more time to get it running. I'll be posting videos of things printing here, but understand I'm in a holding pattern because I'm waiting for the cloud, and I have to modify these parts, save you guys some money. But look for those details online for the Printrbelt if you want to build your own. So we had a full show today, and I talked forever. It's over an hour even. So, Ben is watching from home. Ben! Ben is Dave's kid, who's awesome. Ben. See, I'm Ben's uncle. So, there's that. So, awesome, Ben. Say hi to your mom. Anyway, thanks for joining us. It's good to be back. Not quite feeling in the swing of things yet because it's such a short week, but we're excited to be back and excited to have Dave back. Thank you, Dave. But you guys have a great week. Happy printing. We'll see you next week.